This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, January the 7th, in the year 2008, the BCS title game happened between LSU and Ohio State. It was number one versus number two, as it seemed to be. However, there was a lot of problems and all that. Now you've been thinking, why am I doing the 2008 BCS title game? Was it memorable? Kind of was, kind of wasn't. However, this was the culmination of one of the craziest college football seasons of all time. And this happened in 2007. If you watched all the videos about the 2007 NCAA season in a lot of things, you would probably realize that, it seemed like almost every week the number one or the number two team in the nation would drop. It is highly unbelievable. I don't want to waste too much time talking about that season, but basically the season started with App State beating Michigan out of nowhere, and the season ends with this LSU versus Ohio State game. So, with a few weeks left, Missouri and West Virginia both looked like they were going to be in the national title game, 1-2. Missouri took care of Kansas to get themselves to be number one. But shockingly, Missouri lost to Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. And West Virginia played a Thursday nighter against Pitt in their own backyard and got shocked by the Pitt Panthers. So now there was a lot of issues. Ohio State looked like they were going to be the number one seed. After all, I mean, they lost once, but they didn't. But the Big Ten did not have a title game at that point. So basically, Ohio State was one half of it. A lot of people were shocked that LSU would be the number two team and would face Ohio State, despite the fact that LSU lost to Arkansas a few weeks prior in the famous triple overtime thriller, which I hold dear to my heart as a Razorbacks fan. But the problem was that, LSU should not have done it like that. And LSU was heavily favored against Ohio State, mostly because the game was played in New Orleans. So, anyway. There were rumors that Les Miles was going to leave for Michigan or other places. Les Miles stayed at LSU. In fact, LSU's defensive coordinator actually accepted the head coaching job at Nebraska, Paul Pelini. And Tom Osborne, who was the athletic director for Nebraska, allowed Pelini to come back to Baton Rouge to prepare for the BCS title game. And Ohio State had a few defensive cornerbacks, be suspended. One of them was false. Anyway, LSU would face Ohio State. How did LSU and Ohio State get affected by the 2007 season? Simple. Ohio State's only loss was a home game against Illinois of all teams. And Juice Williams was an icon. LSU suffered two losses, but to be fair, they were both in triple overtime to Kentucky and Arkansas. That's probably why LSU got to be number two. Anyhow, the game started off with a touchdown run by Chris Wells for 69 yards to make it 7-0. Pair of field goals followed. Ohio State was up 10-3. Jeremy Tolberg got a touchdown pass from Matt Flynn to make it 10-10. Brendan Lavelle made it 17-10 with a touchdown catch of his own. And Jacob Hester ran the ball. So it was 24-10. So LSU, after all that, looks like they were right for the picking, and they deserved to be in the title game. And then after Matt Flynn passed it early to Zach, the game was pretty much over. The game ends at a 38-24 win for LSU. And LSU punched their national championship things going. In fact, it was the first national championship game in the BCS era, before the playoffs started, to feature two teams that had previously won a BCS title. LSU won the 2004 Sugar Bowl to be the 2003 season's BCS champion. And now 4 years later, they got another title. LSU became the first team since 1960, and I believe that was Minnesota, if memory serves me right, to be national champion with 2 losses. So a lot of people were kind of bitchy. But I mean, if you look at the 2007 season, it's got to be that, you know, what a crazy season. One of the craziest seasons of all time. I mean, no FBS team finished the season undefeated. And Ohio State was the only team from BCS thing to be with just 1 loss. So I might as well tell you that there were a lot of top 10 matches, but it was called the year of the upset because a unranked or lower ranked opponent beat a higher ranked team 59 times in the 2007 season. 59. Teams ranked in the top 5 of the AP poll were defeated by unranked opponents 13 times during the regular season, which is amazing and all of that. And of course, the first week it started with Appalachian State, who were in IAA at that time, defeated number 5 Michigan on the road. And then the curse of number 2, because in the final 9 weeks of the regular season, 7 times the number 2 team was defeated. Number 2 USC was defeated by Stanford, despite having being favored to win by 41 points. And they had a 35-game home winning streak on the line and lost it. Oregon State defeated Cal, number 2 Cal, October 13th. But Cal suffered problems. Their quarterback got hurt. Their backup screwed up by running the ball to the middle of the field without going out of bounds, which meant the clock still ran and they had no timeouts. South Florida was shockingly number 2 by October 18th, but they lost to Rutgers. Rutgers of all schools. And then number 2 Boston College, after escaping against Virginia Tech the previous week, got taken down by Florida State 27-17 on home turf. Number 2 Oregon fell November 15th at home to Arizona. Number 2 Kansas. Yes, Kansas was number 2 at one point. And they got shocked by number 4 Missouri in the famous border war game, Missouri versus Kansas. So, yeah, Kansas almost was number 1. And number 2 West Virginia lost on home turf to Pitt, as I said. It was pathetic. In fact, the number 1 and number 2 team fell 3 times, as the number 1 and number 2 teams had not lost the same week since 1996. But number 1 LSU, when they lost to Kentucky in triple overtime, that was when Cal lost to Oregon State at number 2. Number 1 LSU lost in triple overtime to Arkansas in that famous game on the 23rd. And then the next day was when Kansas lost to Missouri. And then, of course, that's when Missouri lost to Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game, and West Virginia lost to Pitt. So you can get all the craziness and all that. Like it was so crazy, you know? You had to be there, in a sense. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't want to bore you with more details. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.